Hey everyone, Kyle here. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain a little bit. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and so much more. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. So download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.fm. They'll have everything you need all in one place. I can speak from my experience. It's been awesome so far and super easy. So go check it out, guys, and we'll see you later. Welcome, everyone. This is Our Travel Experiences. I'm your host, Kyle Rasmussen, and today I'm talking with Brad, who recently just got back from his job in Africa, and where he works part of the year. So enjoy the conversation, and look forward to learning something new.
I just got back from Niamey, Niger. I am an aircraft mechanic by trade, and realistically, that travel has been super cool, mainly because Africa seems like a continent that gets like forgotten a lot. like
Yeah.
like in the world of just everybody who travels, it's never like you don't hear Africa come up a lot anyways. So it's been super cool to just even have the opportunity to go to such a cool continent, let alone an area of that continent that is quite like it's very, very third world, of course, but like it's crazy just through even being there, how much similarities it has to other places that I've been. And then like, obviously it's its own like complete wild adventure there. So it's been truly a cool experience. So
Yeah, very cool. So how long were you over there for?
So just with that, with what I do for work, I kind of do like a rotation. So I'm over there for approximately 2 months, and then I'm back here in the States for approximately 2 months. So it's an off and on thing.
Wow. That's got to be kind of tough to plan for life that way.
It's weird. It is and it isn't. It's tough in the aspect of like when I'm gone, it's not like I can just, drive down the road, anywhere from like an hour to 3 hours to like get back, to home. I'm, at a minimum, like most of the travel, the shortest travel day I have getting from, usually I leave out of Boise, Idaho, and then I travel is 3 hours is the absolute minimum it usually takes me to get there.
Jeez.
So like no matter what, if somebody's like, Brad, I need you home, I'm like, all right, well, I'll see you in a day.
Yeah.
So
how do you have to, that's not like you said, not a place where a lot of people typically go. So how do you have to get there? Do you have to go through like London or some other place?
So I go in and out of Paris. Yeah. Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, which is realistically a really cool airport if anybody's been there, obviously. And then even on the bougier side of travel that Amanda loves to point out to me is like has some of the coolest lounges. So like if you have a layover in an airport, Charles de Gaulle is definitely a great airport to have a layover in.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever actually been in the airport there, just the train station.
Yeah.
I'll have to make a point to have a layover there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny too, just because of like layovers and travel in general. A lot of times, like, when I talk to people about travel, it's like, oh, okay, well, where did you go? Right. Like, and then we just like blow over the whole like travel itself, meaning like the airport or the train depots. And I was just having this conversation with a good friend of mine who's also like very much a world traveler, and his daughter once told him like the favorite part of one of the trips they went on was the airport, and it was kind of one of those moments. It's like, you know what? I really enjoy the like people watching and like trying to find ways to like, get into lounges through like, whatever travel credit cards or
Yeah,
perks
yeah.
you have. And you kind of end up like getting into cool situations where it's like you get to experience like a whole nother mini trip inside of your main trip just by like diving into the actual travel again with like the airports and trains and stuff like that. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I love to hear you say that because you're right. I mean, that's something that people don't usually talk about, which is the actual travel itself.
right.
And I always thought I was weird because I always really enjoyed it. I mean, I loved flying. I've always loved flying. I love, like you said, people watching in the airport or just kind of experiencing, a little bit of a different place as you're traveling and how different systems work. It's kind of
Right.
amazing to see how different some airports are around the world compared to here in the U.S.
Oh,
Some are insanely different from what we're used to.
oh my goodness. I mean, let's see. As far as like airports alone, because like I know for me personally, I only count that I've been in a location if I spend the night there. But if we go to just
Mhm.
airports, I mean, I'm talking, and I mean, I'm in the aviation industry, so like New York, DC, obviously any major airport in the US, let alone like little municipal airports, all the way to Paris, Thailand, Singapore, Tokyo, like like it's so crazy how airports change, like you're saying, in every country. And like some airports
Mhm.
that like, what was it? I think it's like the airport in Dubai or something like that. Like there's an amusement park there. Don't
That's
quote me on
insane.
that, but it's one of those big locations like that, and it's like, what? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Why is this here?
Yeah, exactly. But I'm like, hey, if I have a 20-hour layover, like, I'm excited. There's an amusement park here.
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever done that where you make a layover like one day or something like that so you can explore?
So I have done it unintentionally, where like flying in and out of Africa as an example, there's a very minimal amount of flights. So
Hmm.
I got into Paris like on a weird schedule where it put me in Paris for like, I think it was like 16 or 18 hours. So I ended up like, my check bag stayed, but I took my little carry on, went out in the town, walked around, and then came back and, crashed at a hotel for a little bit right at the airport before getting back on a flight. So,
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes that can be really fun, even if it is unintentional. I've done that before, where you have like a 16 or 18 hour layover, or whatever it is.
right.
It's nice to just go spend a day in the city that you're staying in. Um, get like a little added bonus travel.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Not to mention, like, I know companies, I believe they're still doing it too, like Icelandic Air will give you a layover in Reykjavik, or sorry, Keflavik, technically, which is where the airport is, for free, like for up to like 7 days. So you can just add a layover in for up to 7 days, and it's no change in the airfare cost. So,
Hmm.
like, you could make Iceland a little stopover, which, some people are like, oh, well, I don't know if I could fill that much time. Well, a lot of people that I don't know who knows this, but like the Blue Lagoon, which is probably one of Iceland's main tourist attractions, is
Hmm.
right by the international airport and has a really cool hotel there. So you could literally just, for 24 hours, go down to the Blue Lagoon, which is a 30-minute bus, if that, stay there in the hotel, eat, enjoy the lagoon for a day, and then wake up and get back to the airport and take off on the rest of your destination. So,
Yeah, that's a smart good marketing or whatever for Iceland. Um,
right.
that's a good way to draw people in too.
Yeah, for sure.
I've seen that with Panama as well. With Copa Airlines, they
Okay.
do that where you can basically pay to have like a 2 or 3 day layover. It's like the same cost and everything, like you said, but
Right.
you can go explore the city for a day or two and then go on to wherever you're going.
Yeah. Again, such an easy way to just insert just a a baby trip or that little stopover to, check a box if that's your kind of travel.
Yeah. Speaking of checking boxes, how many countries have you been to?
Oh my goodness. If only I was sitting in front of my map. Wow. I mean, thinking about that, like basically all of North America, Mexico, and the States. Obviously, we live here, Canada. And I think I'm getting close to. There's not a lot of states left in the United States I have left, which I realize isn't a country, but like in that regard. And then Thailand, Japan, and then in Europe, I got the Czech Republic, Poland. Let's see, where else did I go on that trip? France, of course. Now, the UK. Not Amsterdam's not the country. I just dropped Netherlands. And then I'm drawing a blanket everywhere I've been in Europe. It's been actually a lot smaller than I thought when I put it on the board. And then now Niger in Africa, and I feel like I'm missing one. But again, the map not being in front of me is not helping me.
Yeah. It's hard to remember all of them as you get more.
And it's even weirder of like how less large the world has got as I've traveled too. You're like, it really shrinks the world as you start to travel and hit like some of those major continents and like actually like go, quote unquote, around the world. So it's been quite like mind-boggling to just be like, oh yeah, like I'd easily take a trip to the Maldives or something, or jump over to India. Like, no big deal. That's like 2 layovers. Like, that's nothing.
Yeah, like you were saying, the world definitely gets smaller the more you travel and see different parts of it. That's something I've really noticed in my experience traveling around the world, and I feel like it brings. I'm not sure how to say this. Like, it brings all the different cultures and the different problems and good and bad and everything around the world. It brings that a lot more into perspective.
Right.
Like it makes the little things that might upset us in our daily lives like really insignificant. It makes bigger problems a little bit more like understand it more. I understand other cultures more, I feel like, because of all the travels. I don't know if any of that made sense. It's a hard feeling for me to describe.
No, it's I totally understand where you're going with that. It's like, I mean, I did I'll even just use Africa as an example. And it is very clearly a third world country, right? And just like not, it's weird to say, like, from my shoes, a guy that grew up in Boise, Idaho, I would go there and be like, this is dirty, right? But then you even talk to some of the locals and their level of like dirty, right, has been changed. So it allows me to be like, all right, I can step into your shoes. I can see what, quote unquote, dirty is to you. And like how, where I would be, not me personally, but like I could see myself being like, oh, well, I'm concerned with this. And like, that's like something that why aren't we like doing something to improve this? They're like, no, that's not a problem. Like, we need to improve this. So like the priorities, the agenda, like everything is changed. And even on like, you can make that from like a micro level into this huge macro level. That's like, as just like an off-handed thing, everybody's worried about the gas prices here in the States and just like having like an electric car or something, where I'm like, and being like environmentally friendly. And I'm like, all right, guys, that's cool and all, but this giant continent out to the east of us called Africa doesn't even have any idea what you're talking about. So like, big picture, like, yes, would love to make a good imprint where you can on a micro level, but on a macro level, like, we got this area in Africa that's burning trash and diesel, which is how they deal with it. I'm not judging, but like, you know, an environmentalist might like pull their hair out if they saw that, so to speak. So
Yeah, there's definitely a disconnect of, like, obviously, you know, we're trying to do good in this world and make it better and everything, but we always, you know, kind of forget, like you said, Africa especially is a forgotten place
yeah,
where we just kind of, you know, we don't really think about all the stuff that's going on over there and understanding how it actually affects us as well here.
right.
Um, you know, there's a lot bigger picture than what we're looking at.
Yeah, and it's very like impactful just in my own life, I would say, which I mean travel changes all of us, but to the point of just like I would love nothing more than to like be a part of something, you know, big to change the world. But like as the world gets smaller as you travel, you also realize how big the world is, you know, that double-edged sword, so to speak. And it makes me even be like, I would rather, and maybe this is selfish, but just for me, I would rather focus on a micro, like, impact way. Like, whereas, like, hey, I can just really, you know, focus on my community really well and make sure, like, my, you know, 10-mile radius, or, you know, pick a bubble that I can try and impact. Because realistically, like, I hate to say it, but you ain't helping much more than that sometimes. Like the average Joe, like that, you know, anybody that's just like walking down the street, like we're not talking Bill Gates or any of those guys. Like the average Joe, like I'm glad that you would love to solve world hunger, you know, but you probably have a better chance of maybe buying somebody's coffee in the line behind, in the guy behind you at Starbucks, and spreading a little bit of kindness and like than changing world hunger. So
Yeah. I mean, you know, like something like world hunger, like that's such an enormous problem that would take so much coordination, and obviously you got to have, you know, a lot of logistics and money and stuff behind that to actually make that happen.
sure.
Whereas buying a coffee, you know, that's something that you can actually do and get an impact out of right away.
Right. So
Yeah,
just
that's
again,
crazy.
different perspectives for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. So yeah, I'm curious, you know, when you're over there, what have been some of the like big differences you've seen and some of the maybe similarities you've seen as well?
Ooh, there's a good one. I would say one of the biggest differences is the kids. Um, it's very interesting to see the kids over there, and like honestly, probably one of the craziest hustle mentalities you've ever seen out of a human being on this planet. Where they're just, you know, they're coming up to you, they're trying to, you know, get some money from you, or whatever they can, or sell you something, or just wash your windshield, or, you know, anything they can do. And it's funny because like I even try to do my best to be like, well, I don't want to just give you something, right? There's no opportunity in that. And like some people might critique me on this, and I'm you know, call me an evil person, but a lot of times I'm like, hey, all right, you want, you know, 10,000 CFA or whatever, which is the local currency. I'm like, well, I actually need like a giraffe bottle opener for my mom, you know, as a present or something like that. So I'm like, if you can get me a giraffe bottle opener, I'll give you 10,000 CFA, which is, you know, just to give everybody like a quick little lowdown, is about $20, which there's no bottle opener on the planet that's $20.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, I'm willing to just give you a little bit more, build that relationship, which is something like, as a guy that continues to go back to the same location, I want to do, to have a good relationship with the people there. But
Yeah,
like,
that's smart.
at least I'm doing like some sort of like mild, like, hey, I won't just give you money. You know, you're understanding that I am giving you more than the value of that, but I need, you know, I want you to come up to me and be like, you know, hey, Brad, what can I get you? And then provide a service, because I'm, you know, over in another part of town where I don't have access to what you have. So like, get me some good mangoes, I'll give you some money, and pay a little bit more because you went out of your way to get that.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's a really good idea. And I think it's, I think you're helping that kid in more than one way too.
sure,
You're teaching them, hey, if you're providing some value and everything, like I'm not just going to hand you money,
right.
but kind of teaching them a lesson while also, giving them money as well.
Right. And that's where that exchange and just under the dialogue, like they get what I'm trying to do. And like now there is like a group of kids that like they each have kind of like a specialty basically. So of the guys that rotate in and out and work there, we'll go up to him and be like, he's gonna go get me some fruit. He's the fruit kid, and this kid over here, he's the guy that needs to get me some sunglasses because I never buy sunglasses because I feel like I break them all the time. So I just keep going back to the same guy. And he knows like every once in a while I get a free pair now because he's just like, Brad, you will be back. And I'm like, yes, you are right. I will continue to not buy sunglasses and just come to you. So, but it's funny because even with that, like there's that hustle mentality, the similarities that I see, and this is a similarity around the world. And I'm a huge person in this topic, but like food brings everybody together. No matter what country or corner of the world you're in, it's really crazy to just see how like when you sit down or go out to eat or whatever, that like people, it just brings people together. We're watching like a football game, or sorry, I should say, soccer for the American listeners. But that's probably one of the craziest things that like continues to just get like compounded on, is that food is community at its core, like fundamental level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Have you been like invited into some of those kids into their homes to have a meal with the family or something like that?
Not with some of those kids, but we have a couple other locals that we use as like for like logistic purposes, and so they've come over and we've barbecued for them, and then even we've been invited, to like go and into events with them. So there is like that, again, that mutual exchange of food and community, but like, and yes, that connection happened obviously because of business, but it's still nice to like, we're not talking business at those points. We're turning that, taking the business hats on, putting the friend hats on, and like everybody's just relaxing and having a good time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm curious, what does a typical meal look like over there in Niger?
There's a lot of Lebanese influence, which kind of, what's an easy way to translate like Lebanese? It's very like, I actually said this one time, it's Mediterranean camping food. So it's like, it's still like a lot of garbanzo beans, a lot of beans, but instead of like fish, which is very Mediterranean, you go more towards like the lamb and the beef direction. And it's heartier in like the aspects of like, I always feel like camping food is always like very like hearty and like, oh, I'm in the wilderness, I'm eating this delicious, meal. So, but it's very like beans based, a lot of like root vegetables, but still like chicken, beef, and everything like that. Like, again, like if you know what Lebanese food is, that's the easiest way to describe it. But there's also like there's an Italian restaurant there I know that's just got some crazy good Italian food. So again, it's like what I've noticed is Niger as a whole doesn't have necessarily like a food per se that I've really found, but they obviously have like a lot of African spices, a lot of stuff that comes out of Morocco, that like, no pun intended, but spices up some of the other dishes that look fairly familiar, like different curries and like kebabs, lots of kebabs. That's like the common street meat is everywhere.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting. I would not expect an Italian restaurant to be over there.
Yeah, it's great. well I haven't been there yet. I've heard it's good. I still question it, but apparently there's a sushi joint there too. So
Oh,
to each
really?
their own. To each their own.
Do do you see? I've noticed this in some third world countries. There's such a weird dynamic where, there's like skyscrapers or taller, nicer buildings, and then right next door is basically people living in huts and that sort of thing, dirt floors and all that. Do you see any of that over there?
Yes, yes. Like there is like the downtown area is fairly nice. A couple high rises. There's a if you know about like the Radisson hotel chain, there is a
Hmm.
Radisson hotel there, which is a very much like a top notch 4 or 5 star hotel, and it feels like that when you go inside of it. It's like, wow, okay, this is crazy. This is a beautiful hotel. And then you walk outside and go across the street, and you can like see across the river, and it's like a sea of huts along the river there. Um, so it's definitely a crazy like separation of income there, where there
Yeah.
is very much money there, like, and you can see it. And like there's a handful of individuals I've had the privilege just to kind of like meet and like talk to, and it's like, wow, yeah, okay, like you clearly make money. And then it's like, but then you got this guy over here that is living in a hut. But the other thing to like kind of keep in mind is like, even though there's that separation of money, there's not like a mental shift there as much as we have in like the States. Like they don't look at themselves as poor. Where sure the wealthy will still think they're wealthy. I that seems more
Hmm.
universal. But like no, like the commonality. I mean, I think Niger is like the second like poorest country in the world. Um,
Jeez.
but it doesn't get translated that way at all through the people.
Hmm. Is that because maybe like money isn't as much of a value over there?
I would say so. Like I drive around in a truck when I go out into town, just like a little Toyota Hilux, which is a
Hmm.
Toyota Tacoma, same. And we have like just cases of water I get from my job. So I'll just have a case of water in the back seat, and we'll roll up to a stop sign, and I'll just hand out like a bottle of water or something. And they just, like kids or other guys or whatever that are on the street corner, will light up just from a bottle of water. How much they appreciate something as simple as that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Again, kind of puts things in perspective. What's important.
Yeah,
Um, it's different based on the cultures.
for sure.
Um, do you see uh, a lot of foreign influence there? I mean, Africa, unfortunately, I would say has had a ton of conquering and a lot of outside influence. Is there a lot of that there?
Right. So I mean, as far as like language, it used to be, back in the day, French owned. So there's a lot of French
Hmm.
um in the like the business language that happens throughout the country.
Okay.
I apologize, I cannot off the top of my head, and it might come to me. There's two other main languages they speak there. Hausa is one of them. I know that's one of them. It's Hausa, and I cannot remember the other one. Um, but overall, as far as like today, it's funny to see how like the country that has the most influence there is, other than the French that still kind of have like a military force there, like way to help
Hmm.
out and stuff like that. Um, China has a huge impact on countries like this. Huge. It's crazy how much money that China has put into some of these countries like this.
Huh. In what way?
So I mean, like the whole. made in China thing is almost not even like a consideration, because like it's basically that's all you have. There is no like options for made in somewhere else. It is made in China, everything there. And like as far as agenda, I won't, I won't speak to that. I obviously have no idea what the agenda is, but there's a lot of like property being built, bought up and built into that the Chinese are doing there, and just like trying to, from what I can understand, get in with different government officials and stuff like that. And again, who knows the agenda? I won't speak to that, but it's just very interesting to see, like, from all the shoes on the streets, the cookware, the blankets, like everything you see when you go to like stores like Orca, which is basically like an African Walmart. And there's no, again, there's no made in anywhere else. It's just, this is what you get, and it's all directly shipped from China to there. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's been some of your favorite and least favorite moments of being over there?
Well, probably one of my favorite moments was honestly just, I guess, being there, in the aspect of like Africa was always just like a huge, like, kind of continent, and this crazy milestone of like achieving like this ability to go there. So being able to go there and actually like see it eyes on has been like a true enjoyment as the traveler that I am. So like,
yeah, that's awesome.
Just truly being able to like, again, and I'm that wanderer that like, I want to get in with the community. I want to like dive into the culture. Like, I want to learn more. I'm working on my French just so I can, again, respect the people there, so I can communicate better. Yeah. And then the least favorite is very much my sleeping arrangements. That is for sure a no-brainer. Even though there's a Radisson beautiful hotel, that is not where I get to sleep every night. Our company's arrangements are kind of a like, there's two options. Either one option that you would get is either an Alaskan tent is the best way I can describe it. So it's like a heavily insulated, super big tent with like an AC duct just shoved into the end of it, just pumping air through it. And you kind of have all these like little plywood boarded up little rooms as you walk in the front door, and you go down and you kind of peel off into your little staterooms. Or the other version of that is just a wooden hut. That same thing kind of has like all these little AC units, and you just kind of peel off into your rooms and whatnot. So if you don't like camping, you're not going to like going to Africa, probably. So
yeah, it's probably a safe bet.
Yeah. But again, I'm in the portion of Africa that's probably the least visited of like any other portion of that entire continent. So you gotta, I gotta also remember that.
Is that the only place that you've been in Africa, or have you been to other places?
That is the only place I've been in Africa so far. Right now, the other three very kind of duh, or I think they're very duh places that I need to go is I need to leave there one time and go up to Egypt, and definitely see the pyramids. That's definitely top of my list. And then I would really like to go to Morocco. I've always wanted to go to the spice markets and just walk the spice markets. I think that would, being a foodie, that would be so cool just to see this transition point, the mouth of the Gibraltar and all that stuff of like just hodgepodge of life. And then obviously the crazy side of me, I need to go to South Africa, and I want to get put into a cage and see giant great white sharks. So South Africa.
I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah. But there's other, and those are like the big three. But like I've had endeavors, being like a big camper and overlander, to go down to like Zimbabwe. And there's actually during the off season, this is a cool spot that I've learned about is Victoria Falls on the border of Zimbabwe. There's like a place called the Devil's Pool. And on the low end of the rainy season, this pool is on the edge of the waterfalls, and you can walk out to, and it's like maybe like a 4-foot-esque little deep pool, but you are 1 foot away from the edge of the waterfalls as it cascades down. Yeah, so stuff like that, I'm all for it.
Yeah, you and Amanda with your adventure travel here.
Yeah, I know.
little crazy in my opinion, but
very, very fair to say. Very fair to say.
I was telling her I get anxiety just listening to her stories.
Oh yeah, and some of her stories scare me too. I'm like, you know what? Like, okay, we have different kind of scary, I think.
Yeah, that's funny. I think that's a cool thing about travel, though, is that you can do so many different things like that. If you want to go, go stand on the edge of the falls, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. There's other things that you can see or do depending on what you like to see and do.
Oh yeah, that's actually a great topic because I talk about this with Amanda all the time, and we just got back from a 4 or 5 day road trip. We left Spokane and went over to Glacier National Park. Actually got engaged. So.
Oh, very cool! Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. So got engaged at Glacier at the base of an avalanche, which I felt was appropriate.
Makes sense.
And then made our way down the entire kind of that western portion, the Montana-Idaho line, just going to all these cool little towns and like working our way all the way down to Yellowstone. Actually, the day we went to Yellowstone, we camped in eastern Idaho and like slept through a blizzard and woke up with snow on the ground. So yay, Idaho April weather. But like that kind of travel might not suit everybody, right? Like sleeping out of the back of a truck. Now, mind you, I should let everybody know I do have like a camper, so there's a full bed. It pops up like it's a pretty nice little setup. But I was telling her like she's all about backpacking, and like I'm like, Amanda, I backpack camp too. Like there's a time and a place to go backpack camping because like the truck won't get there, so you have to use your feet. But then on the 100% flip side of that, I was a guy that used to be 100% against all-inclusive hotels. I didn't like the idea of it. I think it would suck the experience out of a location. Yeah. And then I went to Cancun, hit the easy button, or actually it was Playa del Carmen. Sorry, that's where we were at, right by the other side of Cozumel. And we went there because the group we were with, they were a little more budget aware of the trip, which is 100% fine. And they weren't as crazy adventurous as I would say I am. But even at the end of it, I kind of took a step back and was able to be like, you know what? I appreciated this because like now, like the rest of my immediate family, I could see them doing something like this, and they're not big travelers. So I'm like, here's an easy button to just, fly you to one location, unpack your bags, hang out for a week. You go through that door to get food. You go to those like 4 bars to get a drink. Like you don't pay for anything, and it's just and enjoy the weather and have a good time, and it can still be travel.
Yeah, definitely. It's just a different way of doing it, or different type of travel, sure. Which I think are all all good and bad in their own respects. Yeah. Just up to what you want to do. So
yeah, I think the main thing is just getting somebody. Like I would argue that anybody that has never left their hometown or even their state, like it's just like take the time, go on a drive, turn off that random road. I am not going to quote him, but Anthony Bourdain had an amazing quote about that of just like you can travel across the world or in your own backyard. Travel is a very loose term for like experiencing life. So just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a great piece of advice. I mean, there's even I know for me, I think actually because I've traveled to other parts of the world, coming back home, I feel like I almost explore my city or understand it differently than
Yeah.
before. I'll notice different things here and there that I wouldn't have necessarily noticed otherwise if I hadn't left. And so you can really, really see so many different things just in the one place where you're from.
Yeah.
Um, but I will say, I think the statistic is still true. It's something like 50% or a little over 50% of people never leave a 50-mile radius of where they were born,
Wow.
which is so sad in my opinion.
Right.
You're missing out on so many amazing things out there if you don't get out and explore a little bit.
Right.
Um, yeah, there's so much to see. But anyways, that's part of why I'm doing this is I want to inspire people to travel.
Well, and that's even that I'll even go into the fact that like, I mean, like I would say my immediate group of friends, like everybody is fairly big travelers. You know, we're a lot of us are all campers, outdoorsmen. Like most of all the guys in my group we're all scuba certified.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so like we all have those, you know, and granted, we live in Idaho. You know, we're scuba certified and we live in Idaho, which I always laugh at sometimes. Um, but if you like, you know, like my brother is a great example of this. I'm gonna pick on Sean for a moment. So when he listens to this, he's gonna laugh. But
There
like
you go.
him and his fiance slash wife, you know, status changed by the time this comes out. Uh, you know, they love camping. They absolutely love camping. And in some ways, I think that like they will probably be a fairly, you know, Pacific Northwest traveling couple.
Mm-hmm.
But like I've talked to my brother, and nothing would make me happier than to like take some of the stress away from him and be like, let's go to Tokyo. Because I know he would love and has already expressed that he would love to go to Tokyo. So like as the traveler, I'm like, heck yeah, I'll go back to Tokyo. And I want to bring you because I'll be your like, you know, your liaison, your trip liaison.
Mm-hmm.
But just like allow you to like turn some of those fears off because first of all, anybody who hasn't traveled to Tokyo, Japan is probably the safest city in the world. And yes, I'm saying that as somebody that's from the United States. It is the safest city in the world, period. Um,
Interesting.
like never once did I ever get a tingle on the back of my neck or any sort of fear or anything in that city. It's a beautiful city, super clean, very respectful. And if you like food, you will like Tokyo, Japan. But anyway, just bringing people along and wanting to share that travel experience too is just as equally as important. So again, even like you said,
Mm-hmm.
Cal, as you're doing this, I was so excited to like be on here because I'm like, I want to share because like reach out to me or Kyle or Amanda or any of your friends that you have, whoever's listening to this. And like, if you're afraid to go on a trip, I will travel almost anywhere in the world, you know, political conflicts aside right now, we might
Yeah.
be avoiding Moscow, Russia a little bit and Ukraine, but,
Yeah.
I'm willing to go almost anywhere and will gladly set up an entire travel itinerary that would probably like change both of our lives, even for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's so fun. I love, especially if I've been to the place already, but just being able to take someone along and showing them the city or just kind of leading them around and seeing how it changes someone else.
Yeah.
I think that's so rewarding to
Oh
see
yeah.
that.
I
Um,
totally agree.
yeah, it's amazing. There's so many good things to travel. It could go on forever about it.
Well, you are not lying there.
Yeah. I'm curious. So you said Tokyo was a super safe city. Have you felt pretty safe over in Niger?
Yeah, me personally, and now just as a snapshot, I am like 6'1", 220 pounds guy. Like, not trying to boast or anything, but like I usually don't have any problems wherever I go. But as far as just like locations too, I did not. I have not felt any fear in Niger at all. Like it has been. The people have been very respectful. Everybody waves. Everybody wants to say hello. So it's been a very inviting experience overall for sure.
Yeah, okay, that's good to know. I know everyone, I think especially people who haven't traveled are always really concerned about safety. Um, and it's yeah, there's some places where maybe it's not so safe and you always want to be smart,
Right.
but the reality is that so many people around the world are the same as us. They're just trying to get through life, enjoy it. Most people are super nice and friendly and want you to be there.
Right.
And so as long as you're respectful, I mean, you can feel safe pretty much anywhere.
Oh, 100%. And I would even add that like the perfect example is Iceland, right? It's fairly overall, if actually people look into it, it's probably one of the easiest European cities to travel to.
Hmm.
A little expensive when you get there, but travel wise, it's not too crazy. And after, let's see, 2 trips ago, one of my second trip ago from Africa, as I was coming back, that's where I went. So I went to Iceland for, I think it was only like 4 nights. And shout out to the Kex hostel, the coolest hostel I've ever been at on this planet. Like absolutely amazing.
Why is that?
Um, so as somebody that actually enjoys hostels, this hostel not only was amazingly clean, but Kex is biscuit in Icelandic. So it was an old biscuit factory.
Ooh.
Um, and the I guess it would have been the second floor, because you come off the main street and then the one floor up. But it was a sweet little bar. They served pizza like a good majority of the day. So you had a bar and a pizzeria in your hostel, and it was
Dang.
amazing. Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. But one of the topics when I was there, is I made friends with my bunkmate who I think she was like, I want to say she was 21 or 22. And she was traveling from the UK and she was by herself. And we were just kind of chatting and like slowly but surely, like, if you've ever been a solo traveler, you'll kind of see like it's weird, but like all the other solo travelers actually become one super group. Wherever I've
Yeah.
gone, all the soloers become a group where like if you travel with 2 or 3 other buddies, you might never actually like befriend multiple other people. We're like,
Hmm.
I was telling some of these people that were traveling solo for the first time, I'm like, oh, just find the other solo travelers. Cause like we ended up by the end of that trip, we were like a group of 12. I had 2 guys from San Diego. I was Idaho. There was a guy from Wisconsin. I had like 3 people from the UK, 2 from Denmark, Berlin, 2 people from France, a couple people from Sweden, another person from the Netherlands. Like we were a hodgepodge of solo travelers. And
Hmm.
it ended up being like this amazing group of people that just loved life, loved travel, and just had a ball.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I like hostels too, because you meet a lot of those solo travelers.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I mean, I think everyone, likes to go explore with, someone else there.
Right.
Um, so it's a cool way to make friends, and you get to have such a unique experience together.
Yeah. So true. So true.
Yeah, actually, not to plug this too much, but I
Ooh.
literally wrote like almost verbatim what you said about finding solo travelers in my travel book that is going to come out at the end of the year. Uh,
What?
yeah, I think like we were talking about earlier with just experiencing different types of travel.
Right.
I think solo and group travel are two totally different things, and they're each good and bad in their own respects.
Oh, so
Um,
true.
but like with solo travel, I think it's a lot easier to meet locals, to meet other travelers, to meet people from around the world, and that's one of the beauties of it.
It is. It's scary because again, if you're the first time solo traveler, obviously, like I've been in your
Yeah.
shoes. Every solo traveler has been there, so don't think that like if you're that first time soloer and you're walking into the bar or into the common space at a hostel, like I'll look for somebody that looks out of place and just invite them over and be like, hey, like tell me a bit about yourself, like loosen up, like be like, I ended up taking my bunkmate and the guy that I met from Wisconsin to sushi, and she had never had sushi before. So not only did she
Oh wow.
experience sushi in Iceland for the first time, but we had like some of the best sushi, and we even got to try whale, which was
Oh geez.
crazy. Yeah. Oh yeah. And so just all that stuff, like, and all that experience, like, there's people out there, obviously, please be safe, everyone. But
Yeah.
yes, like, like if the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, just trust them and move on.
Hmm.
But every once in a while, it's nice to just kind of let your guard down and like just have a conversation with somebody.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and you realize, everyone's there for the same thing too,
Oh, for sure.
um, and they all just want to enjoy it too. So it's just a fun kind of bonding moment.
Oh yeah. So true.
I'm curious, how was the whale?
Oh my, I thought it was absolutely amazing. It's very tuna esque.
Okay.
It's in like that dark, very red meat fish direction. Um, and it was very, very rich. Oh, it was so good. That that and fermented shark were the two crazy food items
Oh wow,
on the Iceland trip. Yeah. Yeah.
fermented shark. Huh.
Fermented shark. Yeah. Which actually I have to say, and now I might have a little bit of an iron gut, so that fair warning, because the smell was like horrid. It was
Oh
so
no.
bad. But then I tried it and I was like, okay, this isn't that bad. Kind of a sauerkraut direction, like in the taste
Oh,
spectrum.
interesting.
But again, that was my taste buds. I might be crazy, and yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Huh. Yeah, it, I mean that's something that you wouldn't even think about, especially in a place like Boise.
Right.
But there's so many of those unique foods around the world.
Oh yeah.
I'm curious, what was it like over in Japan? Obviously, that's a big food spot and totally different from here.
Oh yeah, my favorite food story of Tokyo was so when I was there, I was in the military, and we had a free night, and it was me and one other pilot met up with a pilot friend that was there that was teaching English to the local Japanese students. So his Japanese was on point, his English was on point, and we just met up with him. We're like, hey, we're hungry. He's like, I got the place. So I still to this day, no idea where it was, but we went in at street level and went down two levels. We popped through this little door. You had an entryway, and you had to take your shoes off and put them in these cubbies, and you got these little wooden symbol cards that match the symbol on your locker for your shoes. So then you walked back to your table where you sit on the floor and your feet went down, and then the table was like, another whatever that would be, like 10 inches above the floor, but your feet were tucked
Mhm.
underneath. And I'll never forget, he asked Mike was the pilot, and he's like, do you guys have any food allergies? And I was like, nope. I was like, order whatever and we'll just split it. He's like, love it. We had horse, raw shrimp.
Okay.
That one is still kind of weird to me, more than horse even. Just all kinds of different fish and meats and vegetables and stews, and like we just got a table full for the three of us to gorge ourselves on, and it was so amazing.
Huh. That's awesome. Um, yeah, wow. I mean, Was there any that you couldn't eat?
The only thing I still to this day, and all my foodie lovers out there are gonna rip their hair out for me saying this. Sea urchin, I just can't enjoy it. That's the one thing I can't enjoy yet.
Huh. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, if sea urchin is the one thing, you're a lot more adventurous than most people, I would say.
yeah. I mean, and still try it because there's people I know that love it. It just doesn't hit. That's the one thing that I've found that just doesn't hit the mark for me.
Huh. What has been your favorite food that you've had while traveling?
Ooh, that is a good one. I actually think I can divide that into two,
Okay.
because they're so different, um, that like they both hit a very special mark in different ways. Probably kind of in like the Europe area. Um, the pierogi I had at this little bar in Poland was, I still dream about it to this day. Uh, it's like a little fried dough filled with potatoes and other vegetables. It was just unreal, and I think we all went into a food coma and slept in the booth after we finished this giant plate of pierogi. Um, and then the other one would actually be Japan, and so that was kind of like the savory side. So the sweet
Mhm.
side was these little, I, I don't know what they were, but the best I can describe them is they looked like little dollar pancakes with a green tea kind of a mousse filling where they folded it like a little taco. So it was a little pancake
Huh.
taco with a green tea filling. And as far as the sweet spectrum, I sat there and just kept feeding this lady yen as I was like, I'll just, as you make them fresh, I want more of these. Like, just keep funneling them into my mouth. They were so amazing. And I love green tea, so that was even better. But, oh, that was so much fun.
Dang, I'm gonna have to try that. That sounds really, really good. I love green tea too. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Oh, then you will, if you go to the Roppongi district in Tokyo, it's a huge market and it's so much fun. If you don't have any chef knives, just wait and buy them there because they were like amazing and fairly cheap comparatively. And then I literally, like, to even speak to the safety of Tokyo, I would just walk around with money in my pocket and like I'd walk up to a food vendor. And a lot of times I just pointed, I was like, I'll try that. Obviously it's not going to kill me. And then I would like not understand how much it would be because like maybe the menu was off. I would just hand a handful of coins out, and they would pick the appropriate coins out of my hand and be like, just take
mhm.
exactly what they need. Like there was just so much respect. And it was so amazing. And they could tell I wasn't like, I'm like, I don't know how much. Like, I'm like, do you help?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, dang, you got me wanting to go to Japan. I know I have a couple friends who really want to go as well, so that might have to be one of my next trips too.
Oh, and if you the two times of the year that I would say if you could aim it around, again, if you're aiming for like the Tokyo area, is either during the cherry blossom blooming, which is
Mm.
again like will alter the entire view of not so much Tokyo, but the surrounding areas. Um, and then honestly, and I missed this by 1 week. I'm still mad about this. It's probably my only bitter thing. I missed the world champion sumo wrestling like matches
Oh
by
man.
1 week. Ah, I need to go back and see that because that just sounds like so much fun to watch.
Oh dang, yeah, that'd be amazing. Um, that's such a unique sport. I- yeah, dang. When is that typically?
That was I was there in August. So I think it was either the end of August or maybe beginning of September was when it was,
Okay.
somewhere right around there.
Okay.
Um, and then cherry blossom blooming, I know, is in the spring in general,
Mhm.
but I don't know when there's a couple other areas up in even northern Japan that are like, that's what they're known for is like their cherry blossoms blooming. Um, so, you know, obviously there's a gazillion places in Japan to visit other than Tokyo. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Were you just in Tokyo, or did you get outside at all?
yeah, I was just in the greater like Tokyo city area during that, like, what was I there, 2 weeks? Yeah, 2 weeks. So
Okay, nice. Would you recommend staying in the Tokyo area for 2 weeks, or could you maybe take 2 weeks for the whole country? What would you suggest?
um Tokyo, I should say the disclosure that I definitely enjoy cities just as much as I enjoy countrysides, but I think there's like, again, kind of, there's a pro and con to everything. Um, Tokyo is obviously the easiest airport to fly into. So
Mhm.
with that, like if you gave Tokyo the 3 days, or two couple of days at the beginning of the trip and then went off somewhere and maybe a couple of days before you flew out, I think that would be perfect. Um, there's I think, Mount Fuji.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like the cool part, I didn't have time to do this, but I found out about this later. As you hike it, there's like milestones you hit where you can get like a staff, and you'll get stamps on the staff, and then you like can show that you have achieved the mountain, and then you can camp at like a point like places on the mountain too, so you can make it into a multi-day venture.
Hmm. Oh, very cool. How high is
And
that
it's
mountain?
I can't remember the height, but it's the most hiked mountain in like the world or something like that. It's a very, like, it's not steep. It's a very easygoing path, like just that winds your way up the mountain. So
Hmm.
very doable for all sorts of fitness levels.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Any other exciting or interesting stories that you want to share?
Um I mean, whew, the
Where do you
list
begin, right?
the list goes on. The list, yeah, I'm trying to think if there's like any just like crazy. I mean, I would say that the only other one that would be really, really worth sharing is like where travel, started for me, as far as, I grew up camping outer, within about a 4 hour bubble of the 4 or 5 hour bubble of Boise. But like
Mhm.
my first like big travel was back when I played hockey growing up, ice hockey. So we would travel up to Crow's Nest Pass, Alberta, Canada, and just doing anything that's like multi-leg, where you're working your way a couple of days towards a destination, then you stay in this destination, and we would camp out right by these train tracks, and then wake up and play hockey all day, and just all this kinds of fun stuff. Really just kickstarted my travel love for sure. Um,
Mhm.
and in the grand scheme of things, it was such a simple thing, but that was probably the beginning of my travel bugness, and I can thank my parents for that. So thank you, mom and dad, for for
Yeah.
letting us go to Canada.
Yeah, there you go. I would say the same for me. Is my parents really gave me opportunities to travel, and that has definitely fueled all of this that's since
Yeah,
happened.
yeah. Thanks for
Uh,
giving me a very expensive hobby. I really
yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't imagine where I would be financially if it wasn't for traveling.
I probably own like four houses by now.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly. But you know what? I think those experiences. I wouldn't trade that for all the money in the world.
no, I always try to, if I ever were to give advice to people, you think about what do you hear people say on their deathbed, and it's spend more time with their families, see the world more, and then say yes to that thing you said no, that
Hmm.
business adventure, or whatever you were trying to do to start something that, for your own. And so, that's something Amanda and I have even talked about, where it's just like, travel will always be a part of our lives. It's too ingrained in me, it's too ingrained in her. And where we're traveling to overseas, and, Paris and France and Central America, all over the world, as we maybe settle down and start a family, that travel sure is going to shift to like maybe within that 50-mile bubble for a short period of time. But like it's still travel, it's still adventure, it's still getting out there. And again, it's crazy to just how much of an exhale it is on your soul in a way, just to take a chance, be a little scared, do something, realize how scary it's not, and then just make that own decision for yourself. So
yeah, definitely. Well, awesome. Well, Brad, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I really enjoyed the conversation. That was a lot of great stories, and really enjoyed hearing more about Africa, because that's not a place that we get to hear a lot about. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, if you'll have me back, we got more topics. We didn't even touch camping. We didn't even touch camping, and there's more travel always to come. So I appreciate it, Kyle. Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute honor and pleasure.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, we'll definitely have to get you back on to talk more about camping. Same with Amanda. She's got a lot more stories that we got to get to. So we'll definitely have to have you both back on again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe do a full three-way one.
Yeah, there we go. Maybe get a 3-hour podcast here or something.
Yeah, I love it. Get those numbers up. I like it.
Yeah. Oh goodness. Well, awesome. Thanks again, Brad. I appreciate it. I really enjoyed it, and I think the listeners will too. So yeah, thanks again.
Yep. Thank you, Kyle. Take care.
Yep. Have a good one.
Yep. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Hey everybody, Kyle here. If you enjoyed today's show and want more, you can always check out every episode on Spotify and Anchor. And now you can also listen on YouTube. Links are in the description below. If you want to see my travel pictures as well as travel pictures from guests on the show, you can check them out on Instagram. The page is called Our Travel Experiences Podcast. And if you want to share your own pictures on the Instagram page and or be a guest on the podcast, you can message me via that Instagram page or email me at ourtravelexperiences@outlook.com. I would love to see your pictures and hear about your travel experiences. And if that isn't enough for you, make sure to check out my new show, From Around the World Fridays. Every Friday, I'm taking 5 to 10 minutes to discuss one specific travel topic, whether that be questions I get from listeners, sharing some souvenirs that I've bought over the years, or discussing one particular city or country that I've been to, and so much more. You'll be able to listen to that via Spotify and Anchor as well, and be able to see the video version, which I'm really excited about, on YouTube. So check it out. I promise you won't be disappointed. And thanks again for listening, and I will see you around the world soon.